Hi, good morning. Thanks for tuning in again. Um, I've done 15 or so videos on heresy misconduct in the solution focused world. And what I've decided to do now is a new series. I don't know how many episodes there'll be of this series. I've called it More Than Questions. And the reason I've called it More Than Questions is that there are people in the solution focused world that believe we only have to ask the right questions. That's all we have to do. Um, but I think there's a step before that and a step that goes alongside it, which is not just about asking the right questions, which of course is important, but it's how we determine, how we know when they are the right questions. And that all stems from how we view people, how we talk with and about people, how we talk with and about solution focused work. Let me explain. People say very, very nonchalantly that solution focus is different. It's different because it views people as in a certain way, unlike other therapists, and that's true, and that's probably the start point. But the start point of this is to say how we view people, and let's just start with that word, not clients or customers or anything. They're people. They're people we see, people we have conversations with. How we view those people determines how we actually work with them. So if we view people as having a problem, if we view people as incompetent, behaviorally deficient, behaviorally maladaptive, if we view people as resistant, if we view people as unable to make changes or needing our help, then we have a certain mindset approaching the work. However, in solution focus, if we view people as competent, if we view people as doing the best they can in any given situation, if we view people as having the answers within them, if we view people as um, people that have managed so far in their life to cope in the best ways they can, all these views of people give us a different way of looking at the work we approach. And it means that when we see somebody for the first time in the room, we make some underlying assumptions about them. We make some assumptions that they can change, either their behaviour or their view of the world. We make some assumptions that they're there to work and to do the best they can. We make some assumptions that they want things to be different. And we make some assumptions that they will have something they would prefer to be happening that maybe isn't happening now or is only happening now partially. That starts us off with a very, very good question, which I've talked about in other videos, which is what are your best hopes from our talking together? By asking that question and by breaking that question down, it gives us a very clear idea, and the people we see a very clear idea of how we view them. What are your best hopes from our talking together? So the emphasis being on your, not a why, not what are my best hopes for fixing you, or what are my best answers for your problem, but what are your best hopes from our talking together? Okay, from our talking together would indicate but it's after the session has finished, some point in the future. The life outside of therapy being more important than the time spent in therapy. So, what are your best hopes from our talking together? Not from me fixing you, from me doing therapy to you, but actually how we're going to work together in a kind of um, symbiotic dance, in a kind of language game that's very important. And I say a game in a loose sense, it's not a game, but it's actually a really important I ask, you answer, I ask. It's a very good relationship that we're hoping to have. And that relationship is based on how I view you. So I assume you do have some best hopes. When you come in front, sit in front of me, I assume there's some things that you would like to be different. You have some best hopes. My job is to get a really good description of that. And again, I assume that you're capable of doing that. You may not be capable of doing that quickly. You may not be capable of doing it with the questions I ask. I may have to adapt some of the questions. I may have to re explain some of the questions. I may have to ask different questions if the questions that I ask are not appropriate or a good fit for the person I'm seeing. And this is a really important part of that whole stance, that whole view of a person. I can't view the person as fitting to what I have to ask. I have to view the person as having their own determinant, self-autonomous direction that I need to find out about. And that's where it all starts. So when I walk into a room, before I walk into a room and I'm going to see somebody, I'm making some very, very clear statements of intent in my own head. Those statements of intent are about that person being capable and competent. Let me explain a little bit further. Most therapy, most problem solving works on a problem part of the person. So let's imagine a pie chart. We've all seen a pie chart, or if you haven't seen a pie chart, a piece of pie. If that piece of pie, if that pie chart has 60% of what's going on is problematic and 40% of what's going on is working. Often, when people come to therapy, or they go to the doctors, or they go to the dentist, or a physiotherapist, or whoever, they want to work on the 60% that's not working. And by doing that, we start problem talk. We start talking about what's happening that's not working, what they need to change, how things have been so bad, and so on and so forth. And sometimes we make a dent, and sometimes we don't. But actually, problem talk doesn't always make things better. If we work on the 40% that's working and we talk about that and we move at 40% to 45%, then we've dealt with the 5%, we've lessened the 5% of problem talk without even approaching it. So when somebody comes into a room or I see somebody and I'm going to work in a solution focused way, I'm assuming that we're going to talk about what they want to be different, what's already working, and the issues around making things different, viewing things differently, and how others would see things differently. And what are the first things that people would notice? And what are the first things that other people would notice? And when has that started to happen already? All of those questions, all of those techniques come from a very, very clear point of difference. That clear point of difference I've explained, but it's worth just highlighting one more time. People that come to see us are for most part competent. They wouldn't have reached this point in their lives if they're not. People who come to see us are doing the best they can. Sometimes they don't know they could do any differently. They don't know any differently because they haven't explored it. People haven't given the opportunity to explore it. People who come to see us would notice when things start becoming better, but they don't. They've never been asked sometimes about what the things are they'd notice. So we do that. People who come to see us are functional, not dysfunctional. People who come to see us have adapted behaviors sometimes to make the best out of a situation we're in. Some therapists will see that as maladaptive behaviors. I see it as adaptive behaviors. Let me give you an example. I've worked most of my working career in drugs and alcohol field. I haven't had my own issues with drugs. And one of the things that's a truism in there is that drugs are a solution. They're not the solution people want. They're not the solution that people could find. They're not the solutions that people could build, but they are a temporary solution. So if we view that, if we view the drug user as somebody that's doing the best they can, making the best solutions they can, given what's at their disposal, we have a different view. We have a different view to someone who takes drugs to escape, or who takes drugs to shut off from a world, or to do whatever. But we actually view people as doing the best they can with the resources they have at hand. Now, when somebody walks in the solution focus room, we are presenting them with different options, but only different options that they can find out for themselves, only different options that they have within them that they might not have been encouraged to bring out before. So that's the start of where we work. My next video will move on from the best hopes. We'll actually start before the best hopes. about pre-session change probably. And what I intend to do in this particular series is go through all the little bits of solution focus that people are aware of but know how to do, but look at some of the thinking behind them and look at some of the rationale for why we ask certain questions and look at some of the our best hopes as therapists as to what might come of those questions. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and please feel free to leave comments below as you have done before, and any questions you'd like me to answer. I'm not the font of all solution focused knowledge, but I will try and answer, and I'm quite happy to enter into debate if that's the case too. Thanks very much. Have a good day. Bye bye.